In this video, we're going to take a look at one of the most common types of EQ, the parametric EQ. It's called parametric because you can control all of the parameters or the settings of the EQ. Let's take a look at this plugin. This is EQ37 band and it comes stock with Pro Tools. It has 5 primary bands at the bottom here. LF stands for low frequencies. Then we have low mid frequencies, high mid frequencies, and high frequencies. So this plugin is sort of splitting the audio spectrum up into 5 different groups of frequencies. There are 2 other controls here, high pass filter and low pass filter. We're going to cover those in a separate video. So for now, let's take a listen to this keyboard part before we start messing around with the EQ. So long sustaining notes, a lot of lows, a lot of highs, a lot of mids in there. Great for showing off this plugin. So each one of these 5 primary bands down here has the same 3 controls. If I grab this yellow dot here in the graph, you can see that there's a bell shape. And if I look at the controls down here, I can control the center frequency. What this means is that all of the frequencies in this yellow are being affected by this setting. Let's listen to it. So I can boost or cut this group of frequencies, and I can also move the center frequency, and the center frequency is the frequency that's affected the most, obviously. I can also adjust the size of this slope with this Q factor here. And so I can make a very narrow slope that will affect far fewer frequencies, or I can make a very wide slope that affects a lot of frequencies. So usually there's a happy medium in there somewhere and you just have to try it. And you can kind of hear that sweepy sound when I have a narrow Q and I'm moving it around. That is automatable, so if you want that as a special effect, you can do that, and I'll show you how to do that in another video. So that's basically the principle behind each one of these bands, right? You have the center frequency switching, you have the Q factor for width, and you can boost or cut frequencies. You can also just turn the whole band off if you press this in button, all right? Now, if we look at the low frequency and high frequency bands, they have one extra control, and that is this shape control right here. So if I boost up my highs here, you can see that it does not have a bell shape, it has a shelf shape. And I can change that to a bell shape if I press that button. But we're going to stick with a shelf shape for right now because it's kind of interesting. What it's doing is it's affecting all the frequencies from this sort of cutoff frequency up. Same thing with the low frequencies. If I boost the lows, then you will hear a big difference. Or if I cut them. And again, I can turn this to a bell. So that's the basic operational principle behind a parametric EQ. The limitation of EQ37 band, which you have probably noticed if you've been doing this for a while, is that you cannot see the waves here. A lot of plugins, like if you go to Ableton's EQ8 or if you go to like an Ozone plugin, it'll show you like the waves bouncing up and down on their frequencies. This doesn't do that. And it's actually kind of cool because then you really have to use your ears. This will help you train your ears better than a plugin where you see the waves and you're kind of mixing by eye. All right. Now it is worth noting that there is another type of plugin that is mostly parametric. Some would say semi-parametric. And this is an SSL style plugin here. And you can see it has the same idea, right? There's lows, low mids, high mids, and highs. And there's a boost or cut control for the highs and lows. And there is a center frequency control for the highs and lows. And then in the mids, they have an extra control for Q. So even though this looks different than the EQ37 band, they're essentially the same. And so if you know how to use one of these, you have a much better chance of knowing how to use the other one, and vice versa. So highly recommend you experiment with parametric EQs because they give you the finest level of control over different frequency bands.